Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for another Airbrush Asylum Raw video. You may have seen the Predator head that we've been working on in some of our live streams. So today I just thought I would show you a little section of the Predator head that we're working on. This is a fiberglass Predator head, and basically if you go back to one of the live streams you'll see what we actually have to do to it, which is we're differentiating this particular mouth section to the side skin. So I've got everything's masked up at the moment because I'm working on this area now, and I'm just going to add some detailing to this gum section down below here just so that you can see. It's very hard to film this whole area, so I've decided to just focus on this one spot, explain what I've done here, show you a few little tricks and how I airbrush it to make it look a bit more realistic, and then you can apply that to any gum area that you may be doing on one of your artworks or pieces that you've got that are similar to this, like maybe it's a resin sculpture or something as well. So let's get into it. So firstly, what I've done is I've based it in white. I'm using all water-based Trident paints. So the whole thing was obviously prepped first with Scotch-Brite sandpaper, sanding like a pad, right? So I've cut them up a bit smaller, but I'm using the grey Scotch pad. You can get them in, they usually come, I'll show you, they usually come in a bigger sort of pad like that, okay? So they work really well, and I actually made like a little sanding thing that I could use to make it a bit easier to get into all the little areas. So I've just stuck a bit of the Scotch pad to the tongue depressor, all right? So you can do that as well, just used a bit of glue for that. Then I've based everything in the white, and then once that was done, I've used a flesh tone sort of color, sprayed that over, then worked in a pink, right? So this particular pink, which is pretty light as well. And once that was done, sorry, I just bumped the camera. These are unedited, so just bear with me. Yeah, so once I did that, then I started rendering a little bit darker with a slightly darker pink that I'd already mixed up, okay? And now we have this particular color, which I have in the airbrush at the moment, which will be our veins. So what I'm going to do now is airbrush them in. So just freehand. So you can see this is like a grayish blue. So the reason I'm doing the veins now is because it's kind of before the final tones. You don't want to do them last because they'll look like they're just sitting on top of everything. By doing them now, I'm going to get a bit of that bluish vein underneath, so it looks like the skin's transparent and exposing them. So we'll just carefully airbrush them in. So I haven't really got an idea of where I want to put them. I'm just sort of randomly placing them. Remember, you can always eliminate things later, but try and be as accurate as you can. It does save a bit of time. Alright, so now that I've got some of those veins in there, what I want to do next is I want to switch over to my darker red, which is also overly thinned. So what will happen with it being so thin is that it will actually spurt out a little bit. So if I'm up close like this and I pull back too much, you can see it's kind of produces a bit of a gap. The reason I want that is that it makes it look a little bit more like blood, you know, sort of blood vessels and that sort of gummy, wet area. So yeah, I like that effect that it's giving. So what I'm going to do now is just deepen all of the crevices. The good thing with a 3D object like this is that you've pretty much got, I keep bumping this camera, sorry guys. You've pretty much got a bit of a roadmap of where you want to go with it, because all these areas are popping out so that you can shade underneath. Sorry, it's really challenging to paint this one, the camera, because I have to get the airbrush in all these different angles and areas, little tight spots. So I've been using this airbrush as well, which has a smaller gravity cup on it, so that way I can get in there a bit easier. So we just get a bit of that in there. This will only be just a little quick raw tutorial, nothing too elaborate, just to give you an idea. I mean, if I tried to film this whole project, it would be pretty challenging just to get the camera in all those angles and also the time it would take. I'm just switching to my left hand here to spray that in, just dust over that, so you can even build up some texture. So I'm just sort of spidering out some of those spots for that reason, to get that wetness, that kind of wet appearance. Again, using my left hand, so just switching between left and right to get the best angle. Right, so you can see I'm building up a bit of texture now. That's starting to look a lot better. And now I'll quickly come in with some highlights. Like I said, I'm only just showing you this little section, so I am going to go in and render all of the areas, and I'll use a similar technique, but at least this will give you a bit of an understanding of how to render a gum area. Obviously you can add more and more detail if you like, but for the purpose of the video I don't want to spend too long. I just want to sort of show you a little bit. So now we're going to do some dot highlights to really get some of those wet spots, the appearance of the wet gum, especially under here. So you can see I'm building up my white. Do some on these high spots. I've switched to my left hand again. Now I'm spidering out because I'm not as used to painting with my left hand. But there we go. Might have to switch back to my right. The beauty of a raw video, you see my mistakes. But I think that's kind of important too. Just getting a few highlights in. Getting a bit of tip drying, but that's pretty common for the white. At the moment I'm just using my Eclipse, which has a thicker needle, a 0.35 needle, but you can still go reasonably fine with it. A couple up here. I've still got a lot of rendering to go on the teeth, so they're definitely not finished, but you can see now we're starting to get a bit of the appearance of gums now, which is good. So that white's even building up a bit of texture, which is nice. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch to a sepia, and the reason for that is I'm just going to show you how to deepen some of those shadows. So we're going to... Sepia is a great tone to use because it blends nicely with your red and it's not as harsh as a black. I'm getting a bit of tip drying as well, so apologies for that. Let me just clean that out. And we'll come back in. Shade a little bit under these teeth, so the teeth need quite a bit more work, but I can use the sepia to really shade them, and I'll dust a little bit of sepia on there as well just to make the teeth look a bit dirtier. Obviously, because it's a predator, we don't want him to have pearly white. They're going to be reasonably decayed. So just, again, you can see a bit of tip drying on that. And just going to pull out some more detail. The other thing that this does is it dirties up the gum area. So what I tend to do is I'll use bright colours first, and then by coming in with my darker shading, it'll muddy it up a little bit, but you've still got that bright tone that shines through, which is nice. If you don't do that, then if you don't start with a real bright base, sometimes it can be not enough sort of punch to the area or the colouring. The contrast really does help. Right. So it's starting to come to life. Still needs a bit more work, I would say, but at least this is giving you some sort of indication. Alright, so let me just shade in between here. Oh. So I went a bit heavy there, so bring that up, and I can bring some lighter tone back in there anyway. I've still got to do the teeth, so I'm not too worried about that. But sometimes a mistake like that can make it look a bit better. Alright, so I reckon that's pretty good. I reckon we'll leave it at that. It's extremely awkward to film and airbrush this particular piece, so as much as I wanted to show you guys more of this particular artwork, I think that's probably all I can really show you at this stage. I might blend a bit more red in there, and I might even get some yellow or orange just to really get some of that real off looking gum colour in there. So either way, I hope you enjoyed this short tutorial. If this is your first time to the channel, we'd love to have you as part of our community, so feel free to hit subscribe. Tap on that bell icon and that'll notify you every time we either do a live stream or any other type of content, or new content for that matter. And I hope that this video has in some way inspired you to create some more amazing artwork. So until next time, thanks for watching, and we will be back soon with another video. Bye for now. So this is the completed Predator head. So you can see it's a bit more movie accurate now, as opposed to before when the mouth section was pretty much the same. So you see that more clearly in the before and after shot. It's come up pretty cool. So we didn't paint any of the main part of this model, just fixed up the mouth area for the customer and the collector. So you can see this is the section that I pretty much showed you guys how to paint, and we'll showed you a snippet of how to paint that bit. I did add a bit more detail to it, so just a little bit more dry brushing to finish it off. And then once I'd done that all the way through that mouth area, even in the you can see in the side here, we've got some details, some veins and bits and pieces, and obviously the teeth have all been rendered as well. You can get a good view of that, and even underneath. So a pretty cool model. A lot happier now with the end result. I finished everything off once it had been airbrushed. I used a Createx this 4030 polyurethane water-based clear, so that worked really well. I actually used a brush to really get it on nice and wet, so it made it appear more like the inside of the Predator's mouth. So there you have it, the finished Predator head. It's going to be a shame to see him leave the shop.